This is the sound of your ride home with Dad after he caught you vaping. Awkward, isn't it? Most vapes contain seriously addictive levels of nicotine and disappointment. Know the real cost of vapes. Brought to you by the FDA.
Money decisions don't have to be either or. With Bank of America, they can be yes and. Like yes to sunny vacations and rainy day funds. Can our digital tools and guidance help you create the future you want? Yes. And help you keep enjoying today too. Do more with a bank that asks, what would you like the power to do? Explore our tips and more at bankofamerica.com/yes and.
Let's welcome to the Misfit Nation, Doug Stebleton, from originally from Glasgow, Montana. He moved to California at the ripe old age of about 19-ish to hit the craziness of California and get into the industry of he's a music expert, publishing expert. He is his company owns the rights to music in many of your favorite shows. Some of mine, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, How I Met Your Mother, Zoolander, all those good ones right there. I'm sure there's a whole bunch more. He's also produced some great veteran biopics, Normandy, the story of Simone Renaud, and then World War II, the European campaign. He's also the author, as you see behind him as he comes on the screen, of It's a Wonderful Time. Welcome to the show, Doug. How are you?
Hey, thanks, Rich. I appreciate you having me on. It's
great to get connected with awesome people, especially someone with such a background as yours. And like I told you in our pre-recording, when I see Normandy on your bio, that just piqued my interest because of my background with the 101st Airborne Division, and I know you've been able to take treks around and see Normandy most of the last few years, -2 because of our current conditions. But yeah, welcome to this show, and we're glad to have you.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Yeah, and I think that's so cool that you were in the Army and in the 101st, which like I said, I'm not a veteran myself, but I just love the veterans. I love honoring them. And my dad was actually in the Navy right after World War II. So I have some military history with my dad and my uncle and some cousins, but I never was. But I just really appreciate you guys, what you've done, protecting our country all these years.
No problem. So Doug, why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of your backstory from I guess from when you were in Montana. What made you want to get into with music first and then into producing?
Sure. So yeah, originally from a little town in Montana called Glasgow, named after Glasgow, Scotland. And started playing guitar when I was 16. After I graduated, I decided to just kind of take a year off, figure out what I was going to do. Ended up deciding to go out to Hollywood to a music school called Musicians Institute. And it was a year school, and I learned a lot there, and that was kind of fun. Definitely a big culture shock from a small town of 3,000 people to Hollywood, but I really thrived there and liked it. After I graduated, excuse me, I made a decision to stay out. I needed to get a job, and there was a couple of older gentlemen that lived in my apartment building. They were probably 40 years older than me. They were retired by they were 50. They were always doing the stock market, I remember. And they were saying, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to stay here. And they said, and I said, but I need to get a job. And I said, you guys have any ideas what I should do? And they said, yeah, what? We think you'd be, because we got to know each other over the last year. And they said, parking cars, you'd be a good valet parker. You're a personable guy. And they knew that I had worked on farms growing up in Montana. Not that I was a farmer, but I had friends that had farms. So, when you work at a place that has all these different kind of cars, you got to know how to drive a stick shift. And so they knew I did. So anyway, they said, you should get a job as a parker. So I did that, got a job as a valet parker at the Beverly Hills Hotel, which is a very famous hotel. And I worked there for about 3 years, and that was just an awesome experience, kind of getting to see what happens in Beverly Hills and the Hollywood people and the movie stars and stuff. And drove a lot of cool cars during that time, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Mercedes Benzes, just everything. While I was there, I ended up getting an opportunity. I met a lady who was having dinner in the Polo Lounge one night, and she, in the little office that I worked in, I could play my guitar, a little acoustic guitar, because sometimes it was just slow. And I happened to have my guitar in the corner. And also I was reading a book on the music publishing business. It was actually all about the music business, but I was specifically reading the chapter on music publishing. And she came down and wanted to get her keys for her car. And she saw my guitar and she said, "Oh, are you a musician or a songwriter?" I said, "Yeah." I said, I'm both. And she said, oh, who's reading the book? And I said, oh, I'm reading the book. And I had basically, holding the page that I was on so she could see what the title was. Not for her to see it, I was just holding the page because I got busy probably parking a car. And she said, oh, are you reading that book also? I said, yeah. And she said, oh, what are you reading about? And I said, I'm reading about music publishing. And she says, oh, I own a music publishing company. I said, really? She goes, yeah, you know what? I'm actually looking for an intern right now. Would you be interested? I said, yeah, I'd be very interested. So she said, here's my name and number. Call me tomorrow. And I called her. I went in and interviewed, and I ended up getting an internship with her. Non-paying, but listen, it was, who cared about the money? So that's how I got started in the business. I worked for her for about a year for free. And then she brought me on, and I ended up working with her for about 9.5 years. And that was a great experience because I learned all about music publishing, getting songs on records. And she also managed Eddie Murphy at the time she had a management division, and she managed Eddie Murphy for all of his music projects and soundtracks and stuff. And also Irene Cara, who was really big in that movie Fame, and people like that. So I was, was very fortunate to get that opportunity, and I was with her for 9.5 years. And then from there, I ended up leaving on good terms, went to a record label for a year and a half. And then I started my own company. And that's how have been doing music publishing myself for the last 20 years. Wow. So that's kind of my basic background.
That's outstanding. And what a chance meeting, doing ballet.
Yes.
And then you meet someone that gets you in the door and opens their arms for you, lets you in there. Like you said, year free, but that's a year free knowledge too while you're doing.
Oh yeah.
And then,
I tell people, going to college is great. I never went to regular college. I went to music college for a year, but yeah, going to college, you learn a lot of stuff from books, which is good, and a lot of stuff on the chalkboard, but there's nothing like hands-on experience. So I was literally there, just being there was the chalkboard. It was like I was meeting all the producers that were coming in, the songwriters. Back then it was faxes. So I was getting to see the faxes that came off the fax machine. I got to listen to a lot of music and pick music, see agreements. So it was a great place to get my feet wet in the business. Yeah.
That's a great, I guess it's stepping stone to come in.
Big stepping stone.
And then you've been involved with many TV shows, and I think this is just a few of them that are on your bio here. And they all piqued my interest too. So like I said, I watched nearly all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, The Sopranos was filmed basically where I grew up in New Jersey. So it's
right.
kind of stone there for us. So it's pretty cool. And then my wife watches all the ERs and Scrubs and stuff, so I get to see that. So yeah. I probably heard your music. We all probably have.
Just so you know, to clarify, I did not produce any of those shows. I was just basically fortunate to I had songs in the catalog that I owned at the time, and I would pitch them, and they would say, "Hey, we want to use this song in our show." So I was more than happy to, license the songs, but I did not produce the shows. But it is pretty cool to be part of those pretty, iconic shows like The Sopranos. Yeah.
Your name
just from that standpoint.
Your name comes up somewhere on the credits at some point. So that's outstanding. And then you pivoted and became a producer. How did that happen?
Yeah. So the producing, after doing music for about 15, 20 years, I'm not sure how long, but around 2005, when I had my own company called, at the time it was called Kid Gloves Music. I was married at the time, and my wife my then wife wanted to kind of do more of that. And I kind of wanted to do less of music and more producing. So I let her kind of take over the music company. I was still involved, but not as much. And then I started producing movies. And my first movie was a movie that, you and I, a title that you and I both talked about was called Mother of Normandy. And I had started going over to Normandy, I think in 1998 or 99 was my first trip. And I just fell in love with it. So I've been going back every year to celebrate the D-Day anniversary. And while I was there, one of my trips, I ended up running into an I ran into an 82nd Airborne paratrooper, a veteran, and I was talking to him, and he let me interview him the next day. And through him, I met two of the sons of Madame Renault, who was the wife of the mayor of the town during the invasion. And if you ever seen the movie The Longest Day, which was a movie all about the Normandy invasion, Daryl Zanuck produced it back in 1962, I think. 61 or 62, their dad is portrayed in the movie. And so it's the famous, St. Marguerite is the town that he was the mayor of, very famous because the paratrooper got caught on the church steeple. So I met him, and I found out about this, the story of these two sons, mom and father, how they honored our veterans, because they put 3 cemeteries, temporary cemeteries in their town. And so I thought, wow, this is an amazing story. I said, how many people know about this story? I said, has this ever been on like a movie? And they said, no, just people in the military that come to Normandy know about it, but not on a wide basis. So I thought, well, I got to make a documentary on that. So that's what I did on my first film to honor her and also our veterans. And that was called Mother in Normandy. And so from there, I started just doing a few other films, and then I did a couple of things with Michael Reagan, President Reagan's son, one honoring his father, called Reagan at Normandy, because President Reagan was the first U.S. sitting president that went to Normandy for a D-Day anniversary as a sitting president to honor the veterans, and that was back in '84 for the 40th anniversary. I was not there then; that was way before I started going. But we did a little 15-minute short film about his trip there, and it was pretty neat. He went gave a great speech at Pointe du Hoc, where the Rangers climbed the cliffs there, and at the cemetery. And so that we did that in conjunction with the Airborne Museum. And then so I've just done a few. I think I've done 6 movies altogether, but most of have been honoring the veterans. I did one that was a kind of a political, like a Michael Moore film. It was called I Want Your Money. It was all about the dangers of big government, out of control spending, but it was coming more from a conservative standpoint. And it was about 6 months after President Obama became the president, and it was showing the differences between President Reagan's economic philosophy and Barack Obama's economic philosophy. So that was what the movie is about. So I've done a little this and a little that, but mostly military kind of history movies.
Nice. And like we talked about earlier, Normandy is a really good history place. You can probably make about 30 movies on Normandy itself, just from the different angles of different units that came in and where they wound up going from there. You can probably never ending.
Yeah, never ending. There's so many stories. Yeah, every soldier has a story, and it's an amazing history. So if anybody's planning on going and they have it on their bucket list, I encourage you, please make that trip. It's an amazing trip.
And my godsons got to go just before COVID happened, so 2019, I think. They came back with they both had the hats, the big, I call it the pizza hats, the big the brown hats. They both came back that and bomber jackets. They were proud. Let's look at you guys. I didn't even get there yet, but you guys did good work.
Yeah, no, it's a trip of a lifetime. I brought a lot of people there, and they say, wow, this is one of the best trips I've ever had. And it's pretty neat. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the veterans that were there are, the young ones are like 95 years old. So we're starting to see less and less and less of them. And it's kind of hard, really hard for them to be traveling at their age. Just some of them still make it there, but it's getting tougher. Yeah. So I feel very fortunate to have gone starting in, like I said, 1999, when these guys were maybe in their 70s. They were still pretty, not many walkers, not as many walkers back then, now you see a lot of walkers. And so, so that's pretty neat. A big part of my life. Yeah. Is being part of that.
And you also hopefully were able to speak to and get some of their story while they still had their mental acuity to get it out without getting stuff and get it written down so it's not forgotten.
Yes, exactly. I got many hours of different, definitely a lot of paratroopers, but I did a movie with Michael back in 2017 called Heroes of World War II, the European campaign. And on that one, we broadened it out, not just guys in the Army and paratroopers, but we got guys in the Air Corps and the Navy and all of their experiences of, coming in at D-Day and then all the way to Berlin. So really, yeah. And unfortunately, most of those guys, that was in 2017, right? So all those guys are dead now. They're all gone. So it's really neat to know we have their stories, on film for the future generations to learn from.
Definitely. That's a great thing that you were able to do there. And then of course, from there, now you're an author. You have the Hollywood Time Travel series. It's a Wonderful Time. Is that the first book in the series or the third, or what is it?
It's the first book. Yeah. And the genesis of that is around 2005. Like I said, I started getting into producing movies. I came up with an idea from back in 1993 of a time travel idea of basically a guy going underneath a pedestrian walkway underneath the 101 freeway right outside of Hollywood, about a half mile outside of Hollywood. It's actually there. That's why I got the idea. And I wrote that down and made it into a treatment. And then around 2005, I decided to make it into a screenplay, and I co-wrote it with a friend of mine who had done a lot of screenplays, and we called it Wonderful Time. And I got a big producer on board because it was too big for me to produce by myself, and I needed like a seasoned veteran. So I got this guy, Doug Claiborne. I sent him the script. I said, Doug, I got this script. I said, it's very unique. It's kind of like, at the time, well, the way I described it is Back to the Future meets Midnight in Paris on the set of It's Wonderful Life. But in 2005, Midnight in Paris hadn't been made yet. So I just say, Back to the Future meets it goes back like to the 1940s instead of the 50s on the set of the movie It's Wonderful Life. So Doug says, yeah, send it to me. So I sent it to him. And he sent maybe a week later, he sent me an email and says, FYI, here's my reader's coverage. And so I read it, and it's just a one page, kind of what they think about the script. And I read it, and the coverage was so good. I thought there must be a mistake. This isn't about my script. It's about somebody else's script. So then I read it again, and I realized it was kind of surreal. I read it. Oh my gosh, this is my script. And at the bottom, it said, plot, excellent, characters, excellent. Just everything was excellent. And it says, considered to be made. And so I talked to Doug, and he said, yeah, this is a really good script, Doug, very unique. So we got together. He came on board. We tried to get it made in a few places that he knew in Hollywood, but we always got passes, basically, not because it was bad. They just said, hey, listen, really good script, very unique story, fun. It's a period film, though. Those cost a lot of money, and it's not what, we're not really looking for that right now. So anyway, that's kind of the history of it. It was a movie script. And then 2 years ago, I thought, I might never get that made as a movie. It's like a $20-25 million movie, like on a low end. But I thought I could actually make this into a novel. So I decided to take the script and elongate it into a novel. And then rather than just doing a one-off book, I thought, I'll create a series. Actually, I'm going to turn on my phone. Sorry about that. So we don't hear any more dingings here. So I thought, I'll make it into a novel. And so I created a series called the Hollywood Time Travel Series. And it was called Wonderful Time, but the book's called It's a Wonderful Time, based off the movie It's a Wonderful Life, because that's the movie that he goes back to when they're making it. And I thought that'll be book one. So we finished that this year in June. It came out in October. On Amazon. Now it's also on Barnes and Noble. And then starting in January, right now I'm doing research, and we're starting book two. So if it gets a fan base and does well, maybe every year and a half we'll write a new book one, book two, book three, and so on. So that's kind of how that happened.
That's outstanding. Another happy accident. So that's good, because due to the climate and of course the cost of movie making, that has skyrocketed over the years. And like you said, period one, you have to get all the parts and pieces to make it look authentic. It's probably really hard to get those at this time.
Yeah, it'd be 1940s cars, 1940s, 1946. Yeah, so that gets expensive. So, but when you write a book, none of that matters, because it's just in the book. And even with songs, in the script, we had certain songs, which if it was made into a movie, you have to license those from the owner of the publishing, the copyright, and also the record labels that own the recordings. But in the book, that we didn't have to do any of that, except there were certain lyrics that we had when certain songs were mentioned. And I did some research, and I got in touch with a couple of publishers, and they were going to charge me for having the lyrics in the book. And it got a little costly. So I decided no lyrics, just mention the name of the song title, and that was enough. So it's less expensive in a lot of ways. Yeah.
It's much better. Yeah. And then you can just see it grow within Amazon and of course Barnes and Noble. And I'm sure it'll spread out to the other digital platforms as well as it grows in an audience.
Yeah. Little by little. Yeah. It's all about exposure, and, but I'm going to be marketing this book all the way till, next year for sure, but even in the years to come. The reason it's special right now is this year is the 75th anniversary of the making of, not of the making, but of the movie It's Wonderful Life. It came out in December 20th, 1946. So this month is actually the 75th anniversary of its release, but it'll actually go into all of next year, because the official release to the general public was January 30th, 1947. So good for me. I can market my book for a whole nother year celebrating the 75th. But yeah, that's why it's kind of a neat time. Yeah. For that movie. And it's a lot, that movie is so many people's favorite movie. It's Wonderful Life.
Well, definitely, especially this time of year. People love that movie this time of year.
Yeah.
And are you able to do any actual in-person book signings? Are you doing mostly virtual stuff to do this?
For book signings, yeah, I am leaving for Montana, which is where I'm originally from, as I mentioned, in about a week. Well, this coming Monday, but I do have a couple book signings set up when I'm there. I'm there for 2 weeks, back to my hometown. They've interviewed me a few times already on their radio. So I know. I forwarded 100 books from Amazon to my sister's house where I stay. So I don't know if they might, and I'm going to sign all of them, and I have 2 book signings. So If it goes well, I won't have any books left when I'm done. And if it only goes so, I might only have 50 left, but whatever. But you just never kind of know how many you're going to do when you do those things. So it's kind of like I said, this is kind of new to me. But yeah, I got 100 books that are waiting for me. So I'll sign them all and yeah, have a book signing. So, but in the next year, yeah, there might be some more opportunities for that, but this is the only one I've had so far coming up.
Yeah, I know like we were talking about earlier, this last 2 years has been kind of crazy with doing those kind of things because travel restrictions, crowds, and all that. And a lot of people don't want to go out into those large crowds to see Doug sit there to sign his book and wave to him and hug him. So it's kind of hard. But now I think as things start to slowly open up and some of that fear goes away, you might be able to get out there a little bit.
Yeah, I was originally going to do it at the library in the town, and the lady who ran it, she said, "Oh, we'd love to have you come by, but because of COVID restrictions, we're not sure what's going to happen." And we talked, maybe about a month and a half ago, and she still wasn't sure as of about a week ago. So I just decided to make a couple of phone calls, and one coffee shop said, "Yeah, we'd love to have you come in," and the other one is at a restaurant that my friend owns, and he said, "Come on in." So I cut through the tape, and they don't in Montana, they're pretty lackadaisical on the COVID thing at this point. They're not buying it, buying all the masks and stuff and the fear.
Yeah, same thing. In Tennessee never really closed down here. We kind of stayed kind of normal. Restaurants had a restriction how many numbers can be in there. So there's a lot of to-go orders. You can still go into a restaurant and get a to-go margarita. So I mean, things didn't really change much for those who wanted their margarita, chips and salsa. They can get that, walk out, and go to their house and have the same experience. So it just depends on, each state was different, like you said, and some states are really extreme. Some were very lackadaisical. And then I guess there was some in the middle somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, in California where I am, it's really strict still. We have a very, very unfavorable governor, and he's, a tyrant, likes to use his power. So
he's definitely been in the news for it. So
yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't understand how they keep electing him, but it's beyond us.
Well, unfortunately, we tried to recall him, but that didn't work. But he's up again in a year, so I think that things could change in the next year. Yeah,
well, I hope so for the good people of California. Yes.
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot about the book industry when my daughter published a book right out of high school. And
oh, really?
And I was just coming out of the military. I had no idea about any of this stuff. So we went and we got to know each other again because I was gone so often. And we did a little book tour, went all around the East Coast basically. And we did a lot of book signings. And I think my favorite one was in Destin, Florida. That was the one where all her books sold out and her face was so lit up and happy.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's
how old was she? How old was she when that happened?
18.
Oh my gosh, good for her. And what was her book about?
It's about a young girl who lived a sheltered life, like behind a gated community, homeschooled until she went to college, and then she kind of went buck wild in college.
Yeah,
so she had all life's experiences all at once in college, and that's what she wrote. It's pretty cool that she did it and got it published. Now, then she went and got a degree in creative writing, so she's a lot harder on herself now.
Yeah, wow, that's really cool. That's pretty impressive for an 18-year-old.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked that she wrote it during school. So
yeah, but I can relate. It is quite a endeavor of putting a book out, writing it, and that's just the first phase. Then you got to, once you write it, you got to send it to a copy editor and proofreading and this and that and getting a cover made and just so many things. Wow, I learned so much. And then once you put it out, then you got to market the darn thing. Otherwise, nobody's going to know about it. So
exactly. And
so
if your network isn't big, it's not going to help you.
Yeah, I've had friends. I have a friend right now who's he's finishing writing one. And I just told him, I said, listen, you really got to plan ahead. I said, because after you reach out to the 100 to 200 of your friends, if you have that many, I said, after that, man, you'll get some spikes. And then after that, you got to figure out who else is going to find out about your book. You got to remember there's millions of books to pick from on Amazon. And so it's really important to kind of have a plan and maybe a little money to help do some marketing. But if you don't have that, it's going to get lost in the sea of books,
It's just like in podcasting. I'm one of millions of podcasts. And if your name doesn't start with Joe and end with Rogan, no one knows who you are in podcasting. So it's kind of rough. But I do it because I get to reach out and maybe one person will hear you and say, I want to see It's a Wonderful Time. I want to read It's a Wonderful Time or watch one of your movies. And that's what one person that's affected. That's good. I mean,
that's right. Yeah, it doesn't. You don't have to grab the whole world, but if you can affect a few people in a positive way, it's worth it. Yeah.
Definitely.
And this stuff takes time, unless you're Joe Rogan. But if you're not, you just got to, I'm very proactive. So I just like do it, do it, get it up there and get it out little by little. You'll start seeing the growth. Yeah. Usually it doesn't happen overnight, but you just stick to it.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to grow that quick at all. And I'm just a year into it. This month basically is my 12th month. So
wow,
I'm having fun with it and meeting a lot of great people like yourself and
yeah,
moving their stories forward and learning ways to help veterans in between. So it's great.
exactly. Yeah. Good for you.
So where do you see yourself just staying with the time travel series, or do you think you're going to branch off and do some other kind of books as well?
Well, yeah, for right now, just going to focus on, getting book 2 done. And maybe there's some other opportunities of some other books. I've already had some people, asking me, because I did start not just self-publish the book. I literally did start an independent publishing company because I knew I was going to be putting out more than just one. And I hired a book coach who was very helpful, a lady who's a book coach / marketing consultant to help me through the whole process. And she was really helpful helping me set that up. So, but I've already had some other people, knocking on my door saying, hey, would love to have you check out my book and maybe put it through your company. So that's a possibility. I probably won't do that in the next year because I think I want to get 2 or 3 of mine out first and get the concept going, and I have more to learn. But if the money's coming in, I could certainly, bring some more people on, or even someone else who is in the situation I was, because there's a lot of great movie scripts out there, that unfortunately will never get made. And if people are open to doing what I did, take their movie script and make it into a novel or a longer version or whatever version for as a book, that's a great possibility. Yeah.
That's outstanding. And I love what you're doing. And I love all the Normandy stuff you've done.
Oh,
and
thanks.
keep doing military stuff. That'd be great too. I'm sure that's still going to be a military history thing, still be in your head.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a couple other opportunities that might come up that deal with that. So yeah. And I still, like I said, I haven't gone to Normandy the last 2 years because of COVID, but I'm planning on going this June if all works well with the traveling and aspect. And because France, you had to have a passport, a vaccine passport, I think last June, and I didn't have one. So I just, I've been there 25 times, so it wasn't like I missed anything, but but I do like to go back because I have met a lot of great people over there. So they're in, and I usually go during June, which is the actual week of the actual anniversary. And it's like kind of a time warp because people are, they're dressed like, not everybody, but the people that really take it, the reenactors, they're French, they're from Belgium, they're from Germany, they're from the Netherlands, and they dress like, American GIs, they drive Jeeps, they have Sherman tanks, they have guns. I mean, they go all out. It's really neat. And you're hearing all the 40s music playing. So it's really neat to see that, they really haven't forgotten about, what happened over there.
It's great to see that they appreciate everything that not just us, but the Allies did for them during that time to free them from the Nazi Germany rule at that point. And to have you go there and be able to tell their stories through your work is just that's outstanding.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I feel really honored just to have met these guys through my life and to be part of that. I've learned a lot. Made some good friends. And yeah, the French in Normandy, for sure. In Normandy, they really admire and love our veterans, the Americans and the British. If you're in St. Mary Glees and you're an old veteran and you're walking across the street and you're not walking too fast, they don't honk the horn. They're very patient. They let you walk by. They really respect them. It's really neat.
That's awesome.
And they treat them like rock stars. Little kids want to get their autographs and stuff. It's pretty neat.
I bet the veterans probably love that too.
They love it. Yeah, they love it. They
makes them
deserve
feel
it.
like they were young again.
Yeah.
That's cool. So how does someone get in touch with you, Doug, to either help them with their project or maybe get some advice from you on how to get a project going?
Yeah, sure. I could definitely, I'm always happy to pay it forward, with the information and knowledge that I've gotten. Well, the website for the book is called hollywoodtimetravel.com. And on there, on the bottom, there's my email address. So people can get in touch with me via that way. On the website itself, if they want to learn more about the book, everything's on there. The synopsis, there's a book trailer, author bios of me and Reinhard, my co-author. So everything's on that website, hollywoodtimetravel.com. You can also, find out how to click it and it'll take you to Amazon to buy the book. And the book's really cheap. It's usually it's $2.99 for the ebook, which is, less than a cup of Starbucks coffee. Right now it's actually 99 cents for the rest of the month, because I've been doing some promos like on Robbins Reads, these places where people like to go there and find deals. So you bring down the price to 99 cents for 2 or 3 days, but I have a few of them going. So I thought I'll just leave it for 9 cents till the end of the year. Then I'll bring it back up to $2.99. And then the soft cover, though, that's $17.99. If people like a tangible book, which I prefer to read. But yeah, so they can figure all that out on there. And if they want to get in touch with me, reach out to me through my email. And if I can help in any way with advice on the music business, producing movies, or becoming a debut author, I can definitely give information on all 3 of those
Awesome,
aspects.
Doug.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Fred. Thanks for offering that out to the audience, and thanks for everything you're doing.
Oh, Rich, thanks. Yeah, appreciate the opportunity, and I wish you the best, on your podcast.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, take care.
You too.